Welcome to the Christmas special at the end of season 4 of the Filmmaker Film Watcher podcast. I'm filmmaker Richard DiGregorio.
And I'm Santa.
Merry Christmas, one and all.
I'd say until all good night, but they might hang up then. Let's keep rolling.
Hang up.
Okay, so I'm a bit 19th century. What can I say?
We hope everybody's having a lovely Christmas season.
Because we certainly are, because we are actually in the same space at the same time again, after having gone into remote recording in lockdown in Melbourne again. Oh, my goodness. So we're moving from O to ho, ho, ho.
Oh, we are, really. And it's great. It really is. It's a different vibe. It's really fantastic.
And I love you too.
So this Christmas special, we're going to discuss 3 quite different films here.
I don't think they have anything in common.
No, I don't think so either.
Era, theme, or place of origin.
Yeah, I know. Look, so the first...
Other than Christmas theme. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So the first film we're going to be discussing is 2017's film Anna and the Apocalypse,
which you've probably never heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to move right back into the past to 1947's The Bishop's Wife.
And then moving on to the 2020 Australian film A Sunburnt Christmas.
Now, before we get into the films, Ricardo, you know, way back when we started the podcast, we did our first Christmas episode,
yes,
and I bought a Christmas cracker.
Yeah, I remember that.
And what was meant to be a charming novelty, you've now made, enforced tradition. And you said, bring something, Greg, bring something,
every
Greg.
time.
Well, I have.
That's brilliant.
This time, I've actually bought 2 things.
What have you bought?
I thought, in the spirit of seasonal goodwill,
yeah,
and moral improvement, the best thing I could do would be to improve your film reviewing skills.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do...
Thanks.
What I'm going to do is...
Merry Christmas.
As we discuss these films, I'll listen out for you if I think you get things particularly right or particularly not so right, by which I mean wrong. Right? And I'm going to give you auditory feedback to let you know how you're going. So if you get something right, and I think that's a really good point, Santa's going to affirm that. I've brought Santa with me.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, and he will give you affirmation like this.
May all your wishes come true.
Okay, that one didn't sound very Santa-ish. Let me try again.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Oh my
So that's
goodness.
much better. No, but that's if you get something right. And I hope I remember to get these around the right way.
Hang on a minute, what's the wrong?
Well, if you're wrong...
Hang on a minute. If I like a film and you...
No, it's not whether you like it or not. It's whether I think you're right or not. Because we could both like it or both dislike it.
That's subjective. That's what you believe. What's the wrong? What's the wrong
If you
sound?
get something that could, do a bit of moral guidance. You remember in the past we reviewed It's a Wonderful Life from 1946.
Yes, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10.
One of the last lines in the film is little Zazu says to her dad, Daddy, teacher says that every time a bell rings at Christmas, an angel gets its wings. Uh-huh. So I have brought in the little Christmas bell. And if I think you need a bit of, angelness, getting back on the moral path in terms of film reviewing, the bell and I will let you know, okay? So I'm all set to go. Would you like to tell us about our first film, Ricardo?
Absolutely.
Hang on, let me just get my pieces.
I'm quite scared now. Oh my goodness me. Oh, this is going to annoy me.
Good, that's the intention.
Directed by John McPhail, this 2017 film merges the genres of zombie, comedy, horror, and musical. The film's journey started as a short film called Zombie Musical, directed by Ryan McHenry, who co-wrote Anna and the Apocalypse with Alan MacDonald. Sadly, however, Ryan McHenry passed away at only 27, and he didn't really get to see the final product here. Meet Anna, Ella Hunt, who is finishing up school and really wants a gap year to travel before furthering her studies, much to the displeasure of her widowed father, Tony, Mark Benton. Her and her group of friends are all having their own personal issues, however, especially her best friend John, Malcolm Cumming, who is secretly in love with her. In this small, quaint town of Little Haven, a zombie apocalypse hits, and Anna and her friends must now fight for survival, all while desperately trying to reach the school, where they feel they will be safe. Little do they know, however, that Vice Principal Arthur Savage, Paul Kay, has lost his mind throughout the ordeal. Now, this has Shaun of the Dead written all over it. The comedy is similar, although not as funny, and even some of the editing style is used. Now, I guess this is more of a homage to that film than a direct copy. However, the huge difference here between this and that film is that Anna and the Apocalypse is also a musical. And this is where I have issues. For one, I think there are too many songs here. Just as I was getting further into the film and its characters, another song came along, which pulled me out of the story and the characters I was enjoying. But some of the songs I really liked, though. Hollywood Ending, Turning My Life Around, and I Will Believe were highlights. As a Christmas film, it actually succeeds. What surprised me was that there were genuinely tender, touching moments in here, but I won't go into these because I don't want to spoil it. All the performances were great, and Ella Hunt has such a great screen presence. She's really good. All of the friends, Sarah Swire, Malcolm Cumming, Marley Sue, Christopher Laveau, Ben Wiggins, were all committed in their performances. But Paul Kaye as Arthur Savage, however, played the role without much dimension.
Merry Christmas!
The production values were very good for an indie film. I really liked Sarah Dean's cinematography, and the makeup was excellent. But I did find, however, that the zombies weren't that frightening. The screenplay was quite obvious. It really ticked all the boxes with cliches and modern archetypes, but it did that well. But all in all, it was enjoyable. Just a little too High School Musical for me. Greg.
I really wanted to like it.
Yeah.
And I found this film and recommended it.
Yes, right.
And looking back, I'm not entirely sure why, because I don't like zombies. So
Yeah.
when I say I didn't think it was a terribly great film, you have to understand through that lens. But I'm not a zombie film person.
Yeah.
And I was actually quite apprehensive and a bit scared about the zombies until they arrived.
Yeah.
Like, it was more the thought of them. But it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I think the reason I chose it was because I thought, if you put all that together, zombies and Christmas, with a musical, this could be something quite interesting and a bit
absolutely.
different.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was. And you're quite right. It's very much inspired by High School Musical, and I would say Glee.
Yeah.
And what I don't think you've seen, but to me, I think it's probably inspired by and certainly bettered by an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer on TV.
Oh, the musical.
Have you seen it?
No,
Okay.
I haven't watched it, but I know of it.
Once More Feeling.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
done so well, and the songs were so good. I went and bought the CD.
I think the director has actually said that it was
And
an
acknowledged
inspiration
West
for
Side
it.
Story as well.
Yeah.
I bought the CD for Buffy, back when
Yeah.
we used to buy CDs. Kids. But I wouldn't do that here. I don't think there are as many great songs. I thought Hollywood Ending was a bit too High School Musical.
Yeah, but I didn't mind that one. I didn't mind it, but I will believe I really liked it at the end.
I found the first zombie appears at the 19-minute mark, and I thought it was long overdue. I was just
Yeah,
thinking, can we
yeah.
move on? The two songs I did like I Will Believe.
Yeah, so did I.
And I liked the one with Nick Wiggins singing Soldier of War.
See, I didn't like that one.
Oh, because I thought he performed it well.
Yeah, so did I, because I thought he was quite good at it in the film. But
I totally agree with you about Ella Hunt. I made a note to myself. She's got great presence.
she really does.
She reminded me of a young Anne Hathaway, actually.
Yeah, right.
In
Yes.
looks and style.
Yeah, true.
I agree with you that I think Paul Kaye, who usually plays odd characters in British film and TV, I thought he overacted. It was hammy.
Yeah, but it was one-dimensional. Like, he didn't
Yeah,
really
that's-
show
yeah, I know.
any dimension. It was just the same all the way through.
Well, he was a bit weird, and all of a sudden he was off his rocker.
Off his rocker, yeah.
I thought Mark Benton as the dad, who I've seen in a few things.
Yeah.
He was great.
But those moments between him and his daughter were really moving. I
Well,
was touched
no,
by
I
that.
would say the final moments.
Yeah, the final
towards
moments,
the
yeah.
end. Before it was like a father-daughter
Yes,
thing.
that's
and
right.
fine.
But I'm at the end.
But
yeah.
I actually got a bit teary in his finals. Well, apart from when he sang the last song, but his final kind of acting scene, I did get teary because I believed it and I felt the emotion about the situation that father and daughter were in at that stage.
Absolutely. But there was also some other moments as well with Christopher and Sarah Swire's.
They were the lovers, the
yeah.
guy who had the camera.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. Their moment. There was a moment. I'm not going to say what that moment
I
was.
did like her song when she was in the school show that was a bit Santa Baby. You know the song she sang?
Oh yeah. Okay.
I didn't mind that. And it was obviously connected to Mean Girls as well because the boys came out, in their
That's
Santa
right.
suits high-stepping.
That's right, yes.
So there were references through it, and it could have been a better film. Now, by the time the film story really got going with the whole zombie thing, I'm over it because all the gore and the different ways of killing the zombies and so on, it's not me. Other people might find that hilarious, maybe after a drink or two, maybe not. But I can see people might like it. It just does not do it for me.
See, one thing that gets me with musicals, okay, is when the characters start singing the songs, they sort of lose their characters and just start singing the songs, and it's like then they're not connected to that character.
You need to watch the Buffy episode.
Yeah.
Because the Buffy episode is really clever, and I'm going to do a bit of a Buffy thing now. And I am a bit of a Buffy, well, more than a bit of a Buffy fan. The point of that story is this demon comes to town and, casts this spell kind of thing. And what the songs are about is that people's inner emotions come out.
Right.
And sometimes in such a strong way that it actually causes bad things to them. They die or whatever.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And so the point is that, in fact, it's used as quite a powerful moment in that seasonal story arc to bring things out that characters have been hiding, and they do it through song and dance.
Yeah.
And a good musical does that. A good musical is not, let's stick a song in to kind of change the pace and show everyone that we can do musical stuff. It actually advances the story or builds a moment, like when the main characters fall in love or something.
Well, that's right.
And that, by and large, didn't happen here.
No, it didn't, and that's the thing. Like, I don't mind a musical. Like, I like
a musical. That's why I chose it. Yeah.
The Greatest Showman is a bit of a
Yeah, but fewer zombies, I think.
No, fewer zombies in that. But I'm talking about the connection between those guys. The songs were great, but also they were connected to what was going on and how the story was moving forward. Whereas this just wasn't. Suddenly, I felt I was ripped out of the story.
I was in the first parts, I really felt like I was in Glee territory, and I liked Glee. I watched all of Glee, but Glee used songs from elsewhere to kind of put into a narrative arc, and I felt a bit the same here. Yeah, with a couple of exceptions, I did find the songs forgettable, and I also got a bit tired of recycling old jokes as though they were meant to be new and funny. So I wrote some down there. The joke about he's trying will vary. I mean, I knew that one back in the 70s. The one about Olive, the other reindeer, that joke, and the joke about, he's in denial. These are old jokes out of really bad Christmas crackers. Yeah. And I just thought, I felt like the spark wasn't there.
But you knew what was happening, though. That's what I'm talking about. It was very cliche because the best friend that's in love with her, but she's had a relationship with another one.
Well, you find that out late, but yeah.
But you knew what was going to happen. Like,
no, I didn't.
I did. I knew exactly what was going to happen.
You knew exactly who's going to die and who'd survive.
No, I didn't know that.
I thought it was going to go the other way.
Yeah, right.
In outcome.
And really?
And it didn't, which made it a better story. Yeah. Well, I was a bit sad. But
sad.
Yeah, that's Sean Connery.
Yeah, sad.
There were a couple of funny moments. When they say we'll go into town and it'll be better, and you see the big Christmas tree outside the town hall on fire. I mean, that was a great image.
It was great. Yeah, it was.
And even the bit where the zombie head gets returned up the bowling ball chute.
Bowling ball chute.
There were good moments.
There was great moments.
But then there were things like squashing the head between was it two watermelons or something?
Yeah.
And stabbing in the eye. And I thought, really?
It just kept doing that, and it went a bit long.
It was stuck.
And
the whole storyline will go through the Christmas tree store with all the hidden places for Christmas trees because that would be faster. And I thait it doesn't look that big a place. Wouldn't you just walk around the outside?
Yeah, walk around the outside.
There were things that make sense.
And you're walking into there. You know that they're going to be hiding in the Christmas tree. Like
And why do you get infected by a zombie biting you, but not
by
its blood spraying all over you?
That's what I was thinking too.
You know what? This reminded me at times, particularly around Paul Kay as their headmaster. It reminded me of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, a bit like that.
And I actually think. And this is not a comment on Rocky Horror, but I think this would probably work as a stage show.
Oh, it would absolutely,
but not as a movie. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah, look, I don't think it was bad. I think, like I said, I think it was very well made. The production values were very good, so they did a great job there.
So out of 10, what are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 6 out of 10.
Try again.
6 out of 10. 6 out of 10.
All right, okay.
What are you going to give it?
4.
A 4? Wow. Okay.
And I pushed that up a little bit.
No, I didn't dislike it that much.
Quite a few of the performances were good.
Yeah.
Particularly the young folk. And,
they were.
And Mark Benton as the dad.
Yeah, absolutely.
But overall, I actually waited for it to finish.
I listened to the soundtrack again, just
really?
on Spotify. So I started getting into the songs a little bit more than when I first watched it. So I will watch it again because I'm actually starting to like the songs actually a little bit more than when I started.
Where's that bell?
No. I did. I thought they were quite forgettable. Then I started listening to it again and I went, oh, actually, this is quite a good song. Oh, that's quite a good song too. And so I think I think I'll get more out of it a second viewing than I.
And what about the original short? Have you watched that?
I haven't. No.
I found it on YouTube, and I sort of skim watched it, and it seemed to be basically two sequences: a whole sequence in the school with people turning into zombies and things happening, but almost the exact same sequence when Anna leaves her home and has the headphones on and singing this song, while around her is disaster and zombie attacks and so on. She's completely oblivious. So you can see the germ of an idea that took off to the film. But again, it's like when we talked about the Babadook, I think, in other films.
Yeah.
There's a short film, and when you expand it, you've got to be careful how you do that. And I don't think this quite did it. Certainly not for me. But again, I'm not a zombie person, so I'm off to a bad start already.
See, I'm not much of a musical person, so it wasn't great for me as well. So the second film we're going to discuss is 1947's The Bishop's Wife.
Okay, I've just carefully put my props out of your reach.
I want them now.
Let me tell you, and everybody else, about The Bishop's Wife. I've been meaning to see this
Ding, 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 ding.
Nick off. That sounded more like a rail crossing.
I know, it was bad.
You must need training. Get it?
Yes.
Or coaching. Anyway, I've been meaning to see this 1947 film for some time. I mean, a classic Christmas movie with both Cary Grant and David Niven in it. It tells the story of Bishop Henry, David Niven, who's having trouble funding the new cathedral he plans to build. His wealthy patron, Mrs. Hamilton, Gladys Cooper, is happy to donate from her millions, but on condition that the cathedral becomes an obvious memorial to her dead husband, which the bishop cannot agree to. Meanwhile, his wife, Julia, Loretta Young, wanders the streets of their old neighbourhood where she runs into old friend Professor Wubberidge, Monty Woolley. And it becomes clear that Julia feels distanced from her husband and his preoccupation with his wealthy patrons, rather than focusing on his family or their old friends. When Henry is feeling particularly dejected by the prospects for his new cathedral, he prays for guidance and is rewarded by a visit from the angel Dudley. Great name for an angel. Cary Grant. Dudley tells Henry that he will help him, but he is not to tell other people that his new assistant is an angel. Dudley doesn't seem terribly interested in the cathedral, though. Instead, he spends his time charming and guiding Henry's household, Professor Wubberidge, and eventually Mrs. Hamilton. It becomes clear that Dudley is treating the people around Henry in the way that Henry himself should be doing, playing with and helping his daughter Debbie, Carolyn Grimes, engaging with the housemaid Matilda, Elsa Lanchester, guiding Mrs. Hamilton to see where her money can bring true benefit, and bringing joy into the lives of Julia and a cab driver, Sylvester, James Gleeson. Henry becomes increasingly jealous of Dudley's success, and particularly of his attentions to Julia, to the point where he just wants Dudley to leave. This film has some charming moments and performances, such as when Dudley has fun with miracles, decorating the Christmas tree and transforming the professor's port bottle so that it self-refills with Christmas cheer that doesn't make you drunk, or taking the hesitant Julia and Sylvester ice skating, where he miracles them into performing quite advanced routines. But the film doesn't quite have the wit and sparkle I was expecting from this dream cast. And the drama doesn't rank against, for example, the driving need to save the life of a truly good man in It's a Wonderful Life. I also want to know more about some of the characters. Is the professor supposed to finish his book before dying, as seems hinted? Is there more to Mrs. Hamilton's backstory of a forgotten love? On paper, this film must have seemed a natural. A charming and celestial Christmas fantasy, hot on the heels of the previous year's It's a Wonderful Life, with an angel sent to help someone, and A Matter of Life and Death, which also starred David Niven, and these are both films that we've reviewed before. It had a dream cast that also included Cary Grant, Loretta Young, Elsa Lanchester and Monty Woolley, who had great success in the 1939 Christmas hit The Man Who Came to Dinner. They even had actors from It's a Wonderful Life, young George Bailey, Robert J. Anderson, and little Zuzu Bailey, Carolyn Grimes. But it had a troubled production. The initial director was replaced and the film's vision changed as a result. David Niven was originally cast as the angel, but got moved aside for Cary Grant. And initial audience dislike led to rewrites, including some by Billy Wilder. In its day, it was Oscar-nominated for Best Director and Best Picture, and it won for Best Sound, probably due to a scene where a choir of boys gather to sing Gounod's O Sing to God Under the Angel's Direction. And these days, the film is generally liked, with reviews giving it a score of 84% from Rotten Tomatoes. But I think the production's unsettledness shows in the film. It's okay, but it doesn't have the depth or staying power of its contemporaries, including Miracle on 34th Street. I feel there's a better film lurking inside here somewhere, just not the 1996 remake with Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston. Ricardo, how did you go?
Look, you can't really dislike the film. It's so fun. It's so sweet. It's endearing. I mean, Cary Grant is amazing in it. He's so charismatic in the role of the angel, and I did read that he was originally cast as the bishop. I really can't see them in those role reversals now. I can't see David Niven as the angel. Cary Grant just has that swagger, that sort of
Well, yeah, but sometimes I actually found it a bit creepy.
No, never creepy.
There were times when he was kind of on the sidelines, just looking at people, and I thought, with a bit of a rewrite, you could actually make this almost a horror film. He's actually got an evil agenda, and he's not an angel; he's something else.
I just thought Cary Grant to be the angel to bring this marriage back together. She was falling in love with him. It's Cary Grant,
and vice versa.
Yeah, that's of course she's going to fall in love with him. And it's like you're really not doing the greatest thing
against
here.
David Niven too, who's a lovely guy. But he's no Cary Grant.
No. So I didn't dislike the film at all. I actually really enjoyed it. But you're right. It's very light on the drama.
And the sparkle, there's great whimsy and fantasy.
Yeah.
But the sparkle's not there.
Yeah, there's just something missing. You're right.
There is so much more to Miracle on 34th Street, and particularly Matter of Life and Death and It's a Wonderful Life. They've got something that really gives it heft and humour in a way that this sometimes gets close to, but never quite gets there. And I felt Elsa Lanchester as the maid was lovely, but they could have done more of her as well.
Yeah, they could have. But I really loved Monty Woolley's character, the Professor Witheridge. I really love this character.
Have you seen The Man Who Came to Dinner?
No.
We're going to have to do that another Christmas. It's a great film. I've seen it on stage and as the film.
Oh, wow. No, I've never seen it.
And he's terrific in the part.
Yeah, he's
It was based on someone he knew, in fact. And he brings that same kind of fun and performance to this character. Like, he's a real moment in the film.
Well, it's quite interesting because when I was watching it, I just thought I can really see aspects of 1987's Wings of Desire here as well in terms of the angel, the way he was dressed. He was dressed in that, the long coat, and also the scarf. Is very much how they dressed, how Wim Wenders dresses the angels.
So you think it was a reference back to this?
Well, absolutely. I think there's a few references. Like I think I mentioned this in A Matter of Life and Death as well. There's a few little references there, which I think Wim Wenders would have got from. I think Wim Wenders would have been inspired by The Bishop's Wife and that film.
Okay.
But the fantastical effects, you're right. I love the effects in it. You've mentioned the port bottle, which I really loved,
and the glasses,
But I also loved when he fixed the work papers
through the cards. I didn't go back to check, but I remember thinking, I can see what's about to happen here.
Yeah.
He's standing in the background with real paper, I thought.
Yeah.
And then the box and what is in it is obviously going to be animated or something.
Yeah.
But when he threw the cards, I couldn't see where they joined the animation, or were they always animated and he just held his hand?
I think they were all animated,
But it was beautifully done
It
because
was
I
really
couldn't
well
pick
done.
it.
Yeah. But also, what I really loved was I thought, is that Cary Grant playing the harp? It's not him playing the harp because they've just like superimposed his face behind
the harp,
and this is great trickery, great camera trickery for that time.
And the ice skating. Like, he was an acrobat. He used to be in a performing troupe before he went to Hollywood.
Yeah, right.
Back in the UK and then in America. So he could well have been doing those ice skating sequences. They very carefully, once they got going, they very carefully hid the faces of Julia and Sylvester by shadow and turned faces and hats and so on. And there were a couple of times I was fairly sure it wasn't Cary Grant, but it could have been. It was well done.
It was well done. It was very well done. And I loved the whole choir boy singing the song.
Coming in one by one.
Yeah, it was really lovely.
Yeah.
But and I love Loretta Young. She's just gorgeous on screen. This is the first thing I've seen her in. I haven't watched her.
really?
Yeah, I've never watched her in any film. They make the film. Those three, David Niven, Loretta Young, Cary Grant, make the film. Without them holding that together, as much as Monty is great, and some other characters, the taxi driver Sylvester is very good.
Well, it's a very good cast and supporting roles as well. It's not the cast. It's not some of those sequences. It's the whole story, and I suspect the direction as well.
There's nothing bad.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's a sense of lost potential.
Yeah, it's so light. It's so light. There's no depth to it, and for such an interesting subject matter of an angel and the cathedral, the poor. He's putting all this attention into a cathedral when there's poverty in the world. But he's concentrating on this, fixating on this one thing as a bishop. It doesn't get into any depths of that subject matter. And
that's where I think it could have been a better film.
Yeah, absolutely.
By going deeper into Mrs. Hamilton's backstory. Like, what happened to the old love who wrote her that song?
Oh, I wanted to know more about that.
Yeah.
That was a lovely moment, but I wanted to know more.
And Gladys Cooper, who actually plays Professor Higgins' mother in My Fair Lady. I knew the face. I mean, she was great. I love the scene when the bishop gets stuck in her chair and he's walking around the chair,
that's funny.
kind of waggling on
Absolutely
his back, and he's there with the chair stuck out in space, and she says, and they're trying to fix it, and she says, "Have a seat." I mean, that cracked me up.
That was great.
It just doesn't quite.
But her character, though, I would have loved to have known a bit more about her, and I think the relationship between her and David Niven wasn't that clear.
No.
And
it was a bit stereotypical, like I made you, I can break you kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And there seemed to be a hint that Dudley was hinting to the professor, you will finish your Roman history, but then you're going to die. And that kind of went nowhere. And again, I think it's because it shifted before production really got going, and then all these rewrites when the audience didn't like it, and it was having problems with publicity because people thought it was a religious film, and it's not.
Yeah.
I feel like there were probably things that were built in there that probably got cut and went nowhere. And it suffers as a result.
Yeah,
There's that sense of it.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what I love? I love the trailer to this film.
Oh, we haven't talked about that.
I
yes.
love the trailer.
You and I watched that together when we were choosing.
And I've watched it a few times now because I really like the trailer.
Well, tell the folks at home what happens.
Well, what happens is it's set on it's actually set on the studio lot where they made the film, and it's got David Niven, Cary Grant, and Loretta Young trying to get back in because they forget they come out of the studio and go, oh my god, we forgot to film the trailer, and so they try and get back into the studio and get stopped by the security who say, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And they say, well, let's do it. And David Niven says, well, has a great idea and says, well, why don't we make this the trailer? And it's just really quite a
But we can't tell you who Cary Grant plays.
That's right.
It was beautifully done.
Yeah, I think it was very well done.
I suspect, without knowing, that it might have been quite a different trailer in its time as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't seen anything like that.
No.
Again, so
and that was on YouTube, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you can watch that on YouTube. That's very good. So, but what are you giving it, Greg?
I'm giving it 7.
Yeah, I snap actually. I'm giving it a 7 too.
I kind of teetered 7.5. I couldn't get to 8, and then when I thought about it, I thought, no, it just doesn't quite get there.
No, I was always a 7 for me. It wasn't even getting to an 8. It wasn't in that sort of upper.
Oh, in the early stages, it was. I think more out of a sense of anticipation, but then reality settled in. It was a 7.
But the 7's good. Like I really enjoyed it, and I thought it made me feel really great at the end. I'll watch it again because I quite like it. I like the visuals in it as well. The whole angel metaphor is something I really like.
Yeah,
so,
me too. And you know the best thing about this film?
Yeah.
No zombies. And now for our third seasonal film, Ricardo, why don't you tell us about a local product, A Sunburnt Christmas?
I was really looking forward to this film.
Had you seen it before?
No.
Okay.
I'd seen it come up on Stan a few times, the Australian streaming service, and I just thought it was great to see an Aussie Christmas film.
There's not
made.
many of them.
No, there's not. Directed by Christian Van Vuren, who you may know from Bondi Hipsters, this 2020 film follows a runaway criminal, Daniel Henschel, who seizes an opportunity after being knifed in jail and sent to hospital to make a break for it out of hospital, knowing that he's not safe as his past catches up with him. Daryl was involved in a robbery of hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. He's been given a clue where it's hidden, and he has to find it before the hardened criminal Dingo, Sullivan Stapleton, finds him. Escaping hospital in a stolen Santa suit, he steals the Outback Santa's car and gets away. On his way, he accidentally crashes onto an Outback farm property. Toys are everywhere. Residing at the property are a single mum, Fiona, Lynn Cooper Tang, and her 3 kids, Hazel, Tatiana Good, Daisy, Lena Nankivell, and Tom, Aidan McInnes. They are struggling to keep their life together. With their father recently deceased by possible suicide, they can't pay their mortgage and are close to losing the property. Fiona is having a breakdown and has left teenage Hazel to manage the flailing farm and keep her younger siblings from careering completely off the rails. Fearing there will be no Christmas, young Daisy hears a crash and is super excited to find Daryl, Santa, who she thinks she shot out of the sky. And thus begins a wonderful journey which sees Daryl change their lives and his own in ways he could never have imagined. I really loved this film. I thought it was really well directed by Christian Van Vuren. He got the tone and the comedy just right. Dylan Rivers' cinematography was also a real highlight and really captured the film's title perfectly. Sunburnt, dry, yet colourful, uniquely Australian. The characters I felt were all strong, and I think kudos should be given to writers Timothy Walker, Gretel Vella, and Elliot Vella for writing a really tight screenplay here.
This film's only about an hour and a half,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is. The performances were all fantastic. I thought Daniel Henshaw is just great in the role of Daryl. He brings a nice warmth and likeable charm to this character, and he brings a real heart to the film. Tatiana Good as Hazel and Lena Nankivell as Daisy are really wonderful. I mean, they really shine on screen, and Daisy has just some wonderful, wonderful moments. She's really great. The conclusion is funny and really fulfilling. Now, we watched this as a family and all had a great time. It's a great Christmas film that we'll now make a tradition to watch every year. Greg, what did you think?
Well, I really like it. I had seen this before, and
right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why I raised it, because, as I interrupted you saying before, there aren't actually a lot of Australian Christmas films. It's not something we really do. There's been a TV series called The Moodies. Mm-hmm. Otherwise,
yes, there was. Yeah, I saw that.
I can think of A Bush Christmas, Nicole Kidman's first feature film back in '83 or something.
Yeah.
I think Dot and the Kangaroo, that sort of half-animated, half-film one, might have done a Christmas one, where they help Santa deliver toys around the world. And that might be pretty much it. There might be one or two I'm forgetting, but we don't really do them. And you're right, this absolutely nailed the Australianness.
It did.
All the things you described, but also there was a moment where Daryl and Hazel, the 15-year-old, are up near that sort of pet cemetery tree in the middle of the night. And it's pitch black, and the wind, the sound of the wind, and the way the wind was kind of ruffling their hair. Yeah. It was one of those hot evening winds, which to me are very Australian, Australian country.
Yeah. And you felt it.
In that moment, I thought, you've got this right.
Yeah, they really did.
And I'd actually forgotten quite a bit of the storyline. I remember the sort of the vague outline. But it stands up really well to a second viewing. I love the fact that when the bad guy, Sullivan Stapleton, is pursuing them...
He's really good as well.
Yeah, he gets all these signs that link to Christmas. So,
I didn't mention that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so he meets Joe and Mary Ann. He says, it's Joseph and Mary, and she's very pregnant.
Yes.
Then he meets the 3 wise men with the signs, who are road workers. Yeah. Then he sees the guy in the petrol station, Gabe, who's the angel Gabriel, who happens to be standing in front of some digital screen advertising some product, where he gets a halo and wings behind him.
Yes.
Like, there's a real sense of fun about all of this.
Absolutely. And the bit when he finally gets to the farm and there's the whole conclusion that's like slapstick. It's like Home Alone a little bit, you know.
I actually thought the second time around the slapstick for me was probably the weakest point in the film. It's just a little too Home Alone.
Yeah, but I thought that was really. I mean, Cass just
well, fair enough.
Loved it. Yeah.
And there is a fantastic joke, which is in the trailer, about Santa's naughty list as well.
Oh yes, I love that as well. Yes,
I won't spoil it, but
Yeah.
it's a top notch joke.
Yeah.
And in direct opposition to what I was saying about Anna and the Apocalypse before, where they were jokes I'd heard before, they were tired. This is fresh and spot on.
There were quite a few of those, but I just went, oh, that's a good line,
And what happens very early on in the hospital when there's a kid who's obviously got a terminal illness, he's got the shaved head with the balloon and the elevator that tells you everything about the bad guy.
Absolutely. It's very
It's that
well
thing
done.
of, action tells you character.
Yeah, no, it was very well written. That's why I had to mention that.
And I agree, everyone is fantastic. Daniel Henschel as Daryl is just spot on.
Spot on.
Mitchell Butel, who plays the male policeman.
So it's nice to watch him in a film other than Snowtown.
Well, I haven't seen Snowtown.
Oh my goodness.
So he's not known to me beyond this film.
Yeah, right.
But he's
Wow,
perfect in the
amazing
part.
Snowtown,
Yeah, he comes across as venal, becoming a bit more heroic.
Yes.
Becomes engaged with the family.
So when you're talking about dimension, and we hark back to Anna and the Apocalypse and Paul Kay with One Dimension. I mean, you look at this performance in A Sunburned Christmas from Daniel Henschel, and that is dimension. He's got so much going on there in his performance. He's a very, very good performer.
And it is very engaging. When I sat down to watch it, and I was really tired, and I thought, I've got to sit down and watch this film again. And it sparked me up. I talk about the spark not quite being there for The Bishop's Wife. Mm-hmm. This does. And, whether that spark will be there as strongly for people who aren't Australian, I don't know. I think maybe it would be.
I think
but
so.
There's something that really resonates. And because that is a gap in our cultural history, we don't do a lot of this kind of stuff.
No, we
and
don't.
this one really, I keep saying it, it really nails it.
I'll tell you what, as an Australian, if you were to be overseas, and this would be one you'd have to watch at Christmas if you were missing an Australian Christmas.
Yes, that's true.
You'd have to. It would make you really feel homesick, and that's the thing. They get it so right.
'Tis the season to be jolly.
You were saying?
He got it right. He was subtle when he had to be subtle in the direction, and it went a bit over the top in the slapstick parts of it when it needed to be as well.
And even the little stories, like the two police officers, husband and wife, where she's been promoted over him.
Yes, yeah.
And there's obviously a bit of a running thing about that.
Yeah.
And they don't... I said about The Bishop's Wife, I wanted to know more about those backstories. Mm-hmm. I didn't need to hear. It just worked in the moment.
It did.
Now, there's a very obvious reference to another film in this, which is 1961's Whistle Down the Wind. Have you heard of that?
No.
So Whistle Down the Wind was starred Alan Bates and a very young Hayley Mills, was written by her mother. And it's a story of three children who find an escaped convict in a barn, and they think he's Jesus.
Oh, right.
It's an old black and white film
Okay.
that I need to go back and watch again,
Yeah,
actually.
right.
It's a long time since I've seen it. But I think it has to be connected, in conception.
Yes, right.
So it's Santa, not Jesus, which inch a little shift in its own right.
Yes.
But the kids find him in the barn. He's an escaped crim, and the escaped crim, engages them in protecting him from the adult world while he goes on to do what he wants to do. So
good find.
they would actually be an interesting little companion piece to watch side by side. Like maybe start with the black and white drama,
Yeah.
and then move into the Australian, comedy.
Yeah.
It'd be a great pair. So what are you going to give this one?
I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah. Oh, look, you've got to watch it.
The only problem might be access. So we can watch it here in Australia on Stan if you're a subscriber to that platform. I don't know how you would access overseas. I don't know if it's ever been out on DVD here, for example. And it deserves to be. It's great.
Oh, it does. It really deserves to be out there. I'm sure it's got to be on a streaming service overseas somewhere. It'll be on Amazon or something like that somewhere.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
It's a little gem. It really
Well, the thing is, in terms of let's get on to Christmas feels here. This gives you the Christmas feels. I mean, at the end of this film, you feel like it's Christmas and it's
yet
lovely.
there's no snow. There's no reindeer.
No.
Well, you've got a Santa of kinds. You've got a couple of Santas of a
That's
kind.
right. Yes.
There's references to Santa, references to religion, but it's not your archetypal Christmas film. But you're right, it's got the themes. It's got about
does.
family,
Yep.
finding themselves, togetherness,
Yes.
celebrating,
Yep.
community.
Yes.
And on those grounds alone, even without the Santa suits, it's a really good Christmas film.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, through all of these films, I mean, I don't think any of them didn't give me the Christmas feels. I think even Anna and the Apocalypse gave me. It did. No, it did give me some Christmas feels. Because it was.
It may have for you.
Yes. Okay.
My feels were sort of heading more towards a bucket.
Oh my goodness, 4. I think that was more than Cabaret, wasn't it, or the same?
Well, actually, I felt bad about Cabaret. we might have to do Cabaret again sometime.
No, you've done it now. It's on record. That's when you were wrong.
But both of them are. Ding, 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 ding. But both of them are ahead of Showgirls.
Yeah, that's right. So that concludes our Christmas special for the end of season 4.
And one of quite a chain, we've actually watched quite a few Christmas films now.
Yeah, we have, actually, because I think we've been through a few Christmas specials over the course of
season 4, we've had lockdown and COVID.
That's
and it's
right.
been a bit long and drawn out, like so many things.
That's right. But we will be back for season 5.
In a wonderful new year.
Yes, which we're hoping is going to be, not have any lockdowns, and be avoid of lockdowns and whatnot. So we're hoping to be a bit more consistent for our listeners.
And ourselves.
We just want to wish everybody a really safe and happy Christmas and New Year.
A really great lead into a new and, a bright New Year.
Yeah, which we're all hoping for. So thank you to each and every one of you that just takes the time to listen to our podcast. We really appreciate all of our listeners,
and this year we've had listener contact too. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, we have. So look, just always, if you really want to make contact, just go to our Facebook page or Instagram and comment. Send us a direct message or whatever you want to do.
And Ricardo will look at it because I'm still obviously in the 19th century.
No. We'll see it, and it's great to hear from you.
Indeed. So look, let's just sign off. End of season 4. End of this blighted couple of years.
That's right.
Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas.
Have you been naughty or nice this year?